if you really want players like this to come over on the cheap, on like less than what they paid Paul Skeens to be drafted out of LSU, then you know what? You got to put money up front. Ain't nobody coming to your golf outing if you ain't got awesome prizes. Don't cheap where you're cheap.
Ken Rosenthal put out a story yesterday about Roki Sasaki and the recruitment process. He's about to make his major league debut. He is signed up to the Dodgers under team control for a while now, and he doesn't cost much. $6.5 million signing bonus, and he's a league minimum player this year as a rookie because he was signed away from Japan before he was eligible to be a free agent officially, a pro free agent like Yamamoto was. So the title of the article is Meet the Japanese Company That Irked MLB Execs During the Roki Sasaki Sweepstakes. Of course, Ken did a brilliant job of reporting and getting certain people on the record, even if they had to do it anonymously. Apparently, the process involved what essentially sounded like his marketing agent, a guy named Tomaki Sakai from a marketing company called Dentsu, and Joel Wolf was his actual player agent. But this was very different. Wolf was leading the charge with Yamamoto because it was a player contract, Cam. And in this case, the money was going to be about the same. Obviously, the Blue Jays and the Padres had a little bit more to offer, but not much. So they said that this guy Sakai was kind of running point on these conversations, and Wolf was instructed to give opening and closing remarks to teams, but then told not to talk in between, because to me, it actually makes sense. It is a marketing conversation. What does the marketing money look like for a guy who is not going to be paid his value for the first 5-6 years or more of his career? So there's a lot more in here. There were a lot of pissed off executives that felt like this was all a ruse and that he had it decided in his head already. So he asked teams to do homework on why his velocity was down. Teams presented cases with custom websites. Some of them even gave him a tablet to look at, and then they asked for it back when he didn't select them. They took the websites down, the whole deal. Obviously, the information was already collected, but a lot of execs just felt skeptical. And you even had one executive tell Ken Rosenthal, Dentsu, the marketing agency, had an agenda, and it just never felt like we truly fit with whatever that agenda was, and that they're skeptical moving forward when that marketing group represents a player. So I'm just curious for your take, because for me, I'm like, I get it, and you're going to be a pissed off exec. But if you really felt that was the case, then just take yourself out of the running. Nothing actually was done wrong here. He's allowed to have in his head a front runner. So if he said, hey, I'm going to probably pick the Dodgers, then he's allowed to do that. And if he feels like they have the best marketing machine, then why not? What are your thoughts from the player perspective?
Yeah, from a player perspective, this is the time in his situation, I equate it to free agency. This is the time where you can be selfish, right? I don't have to care about how you teams feel, because at the end of the day, I'm only looking for one team to like me. We knew there were a lot of teams that like Roki. So as far as marketing, like you said, I don't see what the problem is. He wants to see where his marketing value is going to be the best, where it's going to be elevated the highest. So if he did have a front runner, that's his business. That's also his prerogative. So, for me, it just sounded like a lot of pissed off organizations that, they didn't get their prize, so they're upset. But at the end of the day, I think himself and his representation had every right to handle the situation the way they did. Let's see what information I can get from these organizations, who gives me the best information. Hell, he might have got something from somebody and gave the iPad back and don't take it to the Dodgers. So we'll see what happens. But for me, sounded like a lot of disgruntled organizations that just didn't get the prize that they wanted to get.
I mean, every kid when they're 10 is like, this is the favorite team that I want to play on. Then every kid when they're 16, they start going through the process. Teams start talking to them. You could be a third rounder. Okay, I want to play in the minor leagues. And then you get drafted, and you're about to get drafted. I don't care what team I play for. I want the one that's going to give me the best opportunity to make the big leagues and make the most money. Things change. You know what? That's exactly what Roki did. And until we find out that there was a pre-signing deal, there was something already worked out, which is against the rules, all this is just boo-hoo, the wambulance backing up for all these executives. You put your best foot forward. You go and you give the presentation that you think will get this guy here. And now all of a sudden, we didn't get him because there was a marketing agency. And sorry, you didn't get it. That's not his fault. That's your fault.
And the player's being restricted on player salary, Cam.
Exactly.
He's going to make more money off the field over this course.
And I'll just add this too. Going back over the process, we all heard about, certain courtship, ways that try to be had. Well, a lot of you guys who, try to make a pitch, it sounds like the pitch wasn't that impressive, right? I don't want to say any names, but certain guys bringing certain people in to meet them, and it's like, then you go meet Shohei and Mookie and I don't want to hear it. Like, at the end of the day, he made the decision that was best for him. And it sounded like the Dodgers, they did a better job of rolling out that red carpet than anybody else. So, hey, sometimes you got to look in the mirror and blame the guy that you're looking at.
All we heard about this guy was all 30 teams won him. There's plenty of free agents out there that nobody even made a single run at. You think this dude who's like, I can go anywhere I want, I'm going to go somewhere where you didn't put any players around me like this team did. Good for the Dodgers. They've put their best team out there. And if you really want players like this to come over on the cheap, on like less than what they paid Paul Skeens to be drafted out of LSU, then you know what? You got to put money up front. Ain't nobody coming to your golf outing if you ain't got awesome prizes. Don't cheap.
Baseball season is officially underway. Shohei had 2 hits, scored twice in front of Tokyo fans as the Dodgers beat the Cubbies 4-1. The champs won despite the absence of Mookie due to illness. Freddie Freeman, too, tweaked his ribs while taking BP. The Cubbies had 2 errors and walked 9. So, Tony, how should each team feel about itself after game 1?
So I don't want to get carried away. It's game 1 of 162.
Right.
If how you feel about yourself is determined by the result of every game, you will go crazy by June 1st.
Baseball, you will.
Yeah, they will go crazy. So what about the Cubs? A few things happened that were not great. They were 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. They made those 2 errors. One was a throwing error, led directly to
double play.
Led directly to a run.
2 runs, I think.
They walked 9. Imanaga was a very good pitcher, but he walked 4 in 4 innings. He walked 4 in 4 innings.
Smart.
And I think I'm right on this. I might not be. I think it's either the last 6 or the last 7 innings. They didn't get a hit. They didn't get hit.
Yeah.
Dodgers should feel
like
good.
last year's Cubs.
Shohei, 2 hits and scored 2 runs. Yamamoto, 5 innings, only 1 earned. Their bullpen was lights out. They went 4 innings, gave up no runs, no hits, no walks, and struck out 5. But Freeman tweaks something that he had in the playoffs last year, and Mookie has a strange virus. Yeah. You don't want to come back to the United States and 2 of your 3 MVPs can't play.
Yeah, they should feel like the champs. That's what they should feel like, because they play like that, because they got number 17 on their side. And the Cubs looked like the Cubs last year, which is not totally discouraging, but because Imanaga gave up no hits.
That's right.
4
you don't
innings.
Want to walk 4.
Okay, but it's early. It's March.
Yeah.
There should be no baseball yet. Not games that count, but Imanaga was good early just like he was last year, and the Cubs didn't hit like they did last year. So some things haven't changed. They got to solve that. The Cubs cannot go through these games getting shut out or damn near shut out after scoring the first run of the game and then getting nothing else. But again, these games, I refuse to watch. I actually woke up on Anthony Kornheiser time at like 5 a.m. I could have watched. I refused. I boycotted.
I have a confession.
What?
I was up at 6:10.
You didn't watch?
I forgot.
Good.
I forgot. So I hope I remember tomorrow morning because Sasaki is going to start, and I would like to see how that
don't
looks.
Deserve it.
Cap criers, wouldn't have mattered either way. You're telling a guy that he's essentially going to get the same money regardless. This is what you'll get more of. They will pick a place based on where they feel like they have the best opportunity to make a little extra money off the field. It could give an even greater advantage to a bigger market. Keep that in mind here. Other teams also could have made wild offers to Yamamoto, to Shohei Ohtani. Now thinking back, I think some teams are like, man, we should have offered Ohtani $1 billion or more just to see if that at least swayed things because
Seriously.
of how much money he's making guys off the field. And if I had Ohtani, how much would that have helped the recruiting process with someone like Roki Sasaki? So
Absolutely.
the other thing that I want to point out from this article, guys, is the Blue Jays factor in here. So Ken pointed out that executives were pissed off about Toronto being in the final running along with the Padres and the Dodgers. Everyone was okay with the Padres. It's a West Coast club. It's a smaller market. Yu Darvish is there. It's a good team. Great. That all made sense. But other executives were pissed about Toronto being in the finals because Joel Wolfe, Sasaki's agent, said at the winter meetings he wanted to join a team that had success on the field and a history of developing pitchers. And execs were like, well, the Jays haven't won a postseason game since 2016, and it's not like they've done a great job at developing pitching talent, okay? So, again, I'm going to come back on that and say they run things in Canada. And if this guy is looking for that extra bang for his buck, this is a place where they felt like he might have been able to absolutely dominate that market. The other factor here, Kratz, Dentsu, which is that marketing agency, they said there's no comp in America to what they do. They basically do deals on every front. They do advertising deals. They even have the media rights contract right now. So Major League Baseball being watched in Japan actually benefits them. They profit off that. So some people were like, oh, maybe they actually do want Roki Sasaki to end up on the East Coast and dominate with a different team in the AL East, right? And so we have, which they used to have, I guess, years back, with Hideki Matsui playing and then Ichiro at night. You'd have basically Japanese baseball fans filling up 6 hours of content instead of 3 hours of content. I do think that's what was going on behind the scenes. So we like to try and give you the business side of baseball. That probably was being weighed, at least to some extent. Hey, can we talk this guy into being the face of East Coast baseball for Japanese players, and everyone will watch the Blue Jays, and then they'll watch the Dodgers later on that night, because the fans out there are connecting with a particular player, and then they are adopting that team as their team. So I thought the article was fascinating by Ken. There was definitely some crying from executives for losing the battle. There's definitely some things that can be done to fix that. Exactly. So I thought it was really cool, though. And ultimately, though, at the end of the day, it was going to be his decision. Nobody's going to know what they actually said to him, but they might have just said, hey, we're good with either of those teams. Who knows, Kratz? Maybe they were trying to talk him into joining the Blue Jays, and he just said, listen, I don't feel like there's going to be enough winning or enough around here. I mean, Vladdy Jr. is supposed to be the face. He wasn't even at the meeting. Like the Dodgers were sending all their big boys. So I thought it was really good timing from Ken to put this out because he's about to make his debut, and he ended up in a place where he wanted to be in a fair process. The pre-cut deal. What's the pre-cut deal? Oh, we're going to give you our whole bonus. That's what every team is going to do in this case. So I do think that the Toronto part made sense to me, even if it didn't make sense on the field.